Hey, Miss Marion here. We're doing Unit 1, Lesson 12. So go to the back to page 158, and we're going to read the I can statement. I can decide using rigid transformation whether or not two figures are congruent. So this is what we're covering for today. Go ahead and give yourself a number, so 1 through 4. So 1, I don't remember. 2, I kind of remember it. 3, I do remember it. 4, I can teach it to my friend. And write yourself a sentence. Hey, I feel okay with this. I don't remember what congruency means. Those kind of things that we'll be able to go ahead and do a reflection on this I can statement. All right, so let's go ahead and turn to page 99. What we want to do, it says all these triangles are congruent. Sometimes we can take one figure to another with translation. Okay, remember what translation is, right? And then we are going to ask each other which one of these are going to be done underneath translation. So go ahead and pause, answer that question, and then come back to me. All right, here are the answers that you should have gotten. So notice how this one here is a reflection. This one has kind of been rotated. This one's been rotated, and all the other ones have been rotated. Remember, translation is a slide. So which one we're able to slide over are the ones that are actually colored. All right, let's turn the page. We're going to start with page 100. It goes all the way to 102. And what you're going to do is you're going to decide numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, whether or not they are congruent or not. And then you have to explain why. So here is number 1. So take about, 30 seconds. Find out if these are congruent or not. So I gave you a sentence frame. The two figures are or are not congruent because you need to write that down next to number 1. They are or are not congruent, and then you give that reason why. All right, so number 1 is yes. As you can kind of see, I have some answers there. If you rotate quadrilateral ABCD, show the first one, right? Around D by 180 degrees and then translate it left 3 units and down 2 units, it will match up perfectly. So notice how ABCD needs to go ahead, and so they actually started with this one and then rotated it and then moved it to make this one. You can actually go either way, but if I take it, rotate it, it will actually match up correctly. So remember, congruency is same angle, same side length. So copy and paste, right? So I can take this and kind of stick it over here, and it is congruent. All right, so here's number 2. So we're going to go ahead and figure out if these two are congruent. So again, you're going to write if the two figures are or not congruent because, and you have to give a reason why in there, not just yes or no. Make sure you have that reasoning why, because you're going to be using this also in your quiz and your test. You have to explain things, and so we want to make sure we understand that. So go ahead and answer that and then come back to me. So here is our answer. The two figures are not congruent because they are both pentagons, but they're not the same exactly. So if I even took this one here and I rotate it or I translated it over, notice how this figure is not congruent to the other figure. They're not even the same. Yeah, they have the same number of sides, but they're not the same shape and they're not the same side length, or actually not the same angles either. So they are not congruent. All right, here is number 3. So the two figures are or not congruent, and give me a reason why. And make sure you write it down. All right, so these two figures are congruent because if you rotate triangle ABC, so they started with this one, around point 0, 0, clockwise by 90 degrees, so you take it and kind of move it up here, and then translate it down 2 units and 3 units to the left, they will match up. So notice how this figure is the same as this one, but I can also show that through the rigid transformations. Rigid transformations mean the same, it takes the same shape. It doesn't make it bigger or smaller. Same shape, same size, same angles is one of the things we have to remember and understand. So all of these sides are the same, all these angles are the same shape also. All right, here's number 3. The two figures are not congruent because, okay, write that down and answer that question, and then when you're done, come back to me. All right, these two figures are not congruent because one is bigger and smaller than the other. So like this one is smaller than the bigger one, or this one's bigger than the smaller one, but they're not the same exact same size. So they are the same shape, but they're not exactly the same size. Are they congruent? They are not. Okay, same shape, same size, same angle, same measures. Everything is congruency. This is not congruency. All right. So in here, we're going to go ahead, and normally I would do this with partners, but you're not going to for today because unfortunately I'm not here. But what we're going to do is we're going to check and see if they are or are not congruent. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. This is, keep on going with this, and we're going to figure out if these are the same or not. So yes, I have student A and then I have a student B, but actually we're going to change it and we're actually going to just do it individually. So looking at number 1, I want you to go ahead and figure out if this is congruent or not congruent, okay? And kind of give me a reason why. So are these congruent or not congruent, and a reason. So go and just think for a second. So is number 1 congruent? Yes, it is. So if we look at it, see how these two are like 2, side length of 2, side length of 2, side length of 2. Notice how this is side length of 1, side length of 1. So notice how all the angles, those are congruent, or sorry, all the sides is what we're looking at right now. All these sides are congruent, and then notice how the angles are congruent. So are these two figures congruent? Yes, they are. Now let's look at number 2. So I'm going to write yes on here. Yes. Now let's look at number 2. Is number 2 congruent? It is not. Notice how these two sides are not the same. The one on the right only has a side length of 1. The one on the left has a side length of 2. So are they congruent? They are not. Okay, not the same size, not the same shape, not the same side lengths. What about number 3? All right, so if we look at number 3, same, 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 and all of those are the same. So is it congruent? Yes. So if I go ahead and I erase all of this, we can actually go ahead and see in there how, well, are the angles the same in here? Yeah, they are. So again, with congruency, it's angles, it's the sides and also the angles. Everything has to be the same, copy paste kind of stuff. Okay, what about number 4? All right, so number 4, we can use trace paper to kind of figure this out. But if I took this square and I try to put it over here, they're not the same. Let me show you kind of one thing. Here is a 90-degree angle, but do I have a 90-degree angle on any of these actually? They're not. They're not 90 degrees. So is this going to go ahead and be congruent? It's not congruent. Okay, so notice how the angles are not the same. Side lengths might be the same. They're not actually, but if we look at the angles, they're not the same, so they're not going to make them congruent. So is number 4 congruent? No, they are not. And then let's look at number 5. Again, we're going to go ahead and ask, are these two congruent? So if we look at this one, this is 90 degrees. But if we look at this one over here, it's actually not 90 degrees. These two are not congruent. The one on the right-hand side is more of a kind of a squished square in a way. We can actually do that through trace paper if we can. Go ahead and see if those ones are exactly the same. So not congruent, not going to be there. So when are two figures congruent? So 1, they have the same side length. Number 2, they have the same angle measure. And number 3, we have the same shape. So these are the 3 things we're looking at as far as something to be congruent. We have the same side length, same angle measure, and then same shape. All right, so let's go back to page 158. And let's look at the I can statement again. I can decide using rigid transformation whether or not two figures are congruent. Go ahead and reflect on that. Did you learn something today? Okay, do you feel better? Do you have, are you, so 1, I still don't get it. 2, I kind of get it. 3, I do get it. 4, I can teach it to my friend. So it's just, this is more of a self-reflection, making sure that you understand and know what's going on as far as what we were supposed to learn today. If you feel like you're a 1 or 2, you need to pause this video and go back and look at it again, okay? Because, yeah, we need to understand things. So today's homework is numbers 1 through 3. So it's practice problems for lesson 12. So I'm going to say lesson 12. Practice problems is numbers 1 through 3. And then on number 3, so it's like 1, 2, and it's 3B. You don't have to do the whole thing. So this is your homework for today. Make sure you put it into Skyward. Make sure you put it into Canvas. Sorry about that. And that's where it's going to go ahead and correct you. And there you go. So have a good day. Thanks. Bye.